Everyone give order. Secretary of Defense, Engineer Deshamannya Denis Perera, on the eve of his fourth oration, 2015, it was none other than President Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Ravi ancient facts. And continues, Deshamannya Perera, her three sons, Kavan, Dinesh, and Captain Drui, Captain AJB Angi, General Denis Perera's batchmate.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On the occasion of the annual General Deshamannya Denis Perera Oration, hosted by the Association of Retired Flag Rank Officers, I am pleased to welcome all of you this evening. We recognize with honor the presence here today of State Minister of Defense, Honorable Wan Vijayawardena, Secretary of Defense, Engineer Deshamannya Denis, the Chancellor of Kottalawa Defense University, Admiral Dayas Andagiri, Commander of the Army, Lieutenant General Krishanta De Silva, Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Ravi Vijayagunaratne, Commander of the Air Force, Air Marshal Gagan Gulat Singhana, the Vice Chancellor of the Kottalawa Defense University, Rear Admiral Jagat Ranasinghe, Mrs. Ranjini Perera, and family members of the late General Deshamannya Denis Perera, members of the Diplomatic Corps, former service commanders, and other distinguished guests, as a tribute to our founder, the late General Deshamannya Denis Perera. Afro and General Denis Perera are linked by an umbilical cord, and this oration is just one of the ways in which we recognize our founder. It's a very important event in our calendar of duties and responsibilities. Your participation in this event gives us the opportunity of sharing some special triumphant thoughts on Afro and General Denis Perera. Welcome once again. Afro was established in the year 1998 with General Deshamannya Denis Perera as its founder president. He saw the great value of a triple service organization. Ours is an exclusive gathering of the top brass that retires periodically from the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. This association creates a golden opportunity to establish friendships reaching beyond duty relationships. Being a gathering of like minds, the officers use the forum, face-to-face meetings, to reminisce on days of valor and stewardship, of trials, triumphs, and tribulations, of moments of an immense surge of national and patriotic emotions on and off the battlefield. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in association of colleagues and acquaintances who have in retirement become great friends. I wish to use this forum today to reach out to all senior officers planning their retirement in the time ahead, to enroll with Afro and enlarge our family. Our armor is our membership. Our vision is to create indelible memories of social and cultural events that promote goodwill and understanding among all our officers and their spouses. Come join our association. The appreciation of General Denis as the Army Commander, the founder president of Afro, and as the Chancellor of this very institute cannot be overstated. He made it his personal goal to address issues of professionalism so all of Sri Lanka could emerge into leadership in the global stage. A multitude of individual efforts can cause a major positive change for Sri Lankans. This is the hidden message he demonstrated throughout his professional life. Let us move along this continuum and extend the reach of our association. It is these many attributes of his professional life that made the membership of Afro launch a memorial oration a few months after his demise on 11th August 2013. The first ever General Deshamannya Denis Perera Oration was held on the 10th October 2013 to coincide with the late General's birthday. Each year, we have used this event as an opportunity to invite a distinguished personality to share some current and topical information among our membership. Ladies and gentlemen, as the incumbent president of Afro, I am pleased to present our distinguished orator this evening, Air Marshal Gagan Bulaksingala, Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force. Let me profile this distinguished officer for you. Air Marshal Gagan Bulaksingala, RWP, RSP, VSV, USP, MPhil, Defense and Strategic Studies, MSc, Defense Studies in Management, FIM Sri Lanka, NDC, PSc. Enrolled in the Sri Lanka Air Force as an officer cadet on 12th February 1981 and was commissioned as a pilot officer in the Gender Duties Pilot Branch on the 8th April 1983. Air Marshal Bulaksingala is a graduate of the Air Command and Staff College at Air University, Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama, USA, and the prestigious National Defense College, New Delhi, and holds postgraduate degrees of Master in Philosophy in Defense and Strategic Studies, University of Madras, Chennai, and a Master of Science degree in Defense Studies in Management from Kotalawala Defense University, Sri Lanka. He is a fellow of the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies, Hawaii, the Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies and National Defense University, Washington. Air Marshal Bulat Singhala was the founding commanding officer of number 6 Helicopter Squadron and has had the privilege of being the longest serving commanding officer of the number 4 VIP Squadron. He is a VVIP rated pilot with over 4,500 flying hours and has had the honor of flying 4 heads of state of Sri Lanka during his tenure at the number 4 Squadron. He has commanded the Sri Lanka Air Force Base, China Bay. He has served in various staff appointments at Air Force headquarters during his career, which include AD-Com to the Commander of the Air Force, Staff of the Air Operations 1, Overall Operations Command Air Defense, and the Command Flight Safety Officer. In addition, he has served as Staff of the Air Joint Operations Command and as the Chief Instructor of the Air Wing of Defense Service Command and Staff College. He was appointed to the Air Force Board of Management as the Director of Air Operations in year 2011 and thereafter as the Director of Operations in 2012. He was subsequently appointed as the Chief of Staff in the 2014. He was elevated to the rank of Air Marshal on 1st June 2015 and was appointed the Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force on 16 June 2015. Air Marshal Bulat Singhala is a decorated helicopter pilot. His gallant and selfless contribution during the separatist conflicts, where he piloted his helicopter with surgical precision, skill, and with a great risk to his life, was exemplary. Back in year 1985, the squadron leader Bulat Singhala carried out a successful air mobile troops transfer operation into an unsecure area at Mandur and subsequently interdicted and destroyed 3 fleeing enemy boats with 20 terrorists, where he was awarded the Rana Sura Padakkama for his distinguished conduct. Further, he carried out a successful Kasavak mission under heavy enemy fire in the Adampan area in the year 1986. At the time of the mission, no co-pilot was available. He voluntarily got airborne with no co-pilot and carried out the Kasavak mission. For this display of extreme bravery and courage of high order, he was awarded the Rana Vikram Padakkama. In recognition of his distinguished and exemplary service to the nation, he has been awarded the Vishishta Seva Vibhushana and Uttama Seva Padakkama, in addition to campaign and operational medals. And besides, he was a member of the Sri Lanka Air Force Sports Council in the capacity as the Chairman Air Force Cycling and was the President Interim Committee of the Cycling Federation of Sri Lanka. And presently, he is the President of the Air Force Sports Council. He is married to Samanthi and is blessed with a son and a daughter. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Air Marshal Bulat Singhala. Thank you.
The supreme quality of leadership is unquestionable integrity. Without it, no real success is possible. No matter whether it is on a section, a gang, a football field, in an army, or in an office. Thus was stated by the former President and the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces during World War II, General Eisenhower. State Minister for Defense, Honorable Ruwan Wijewardena, Secretary Defense, Engineer Karunasena Hettiarachchi, Chancellor of the KDU, Admiral Daya Sandagiri, the Commander of the Army, the Commander of the Navy, members of the Diplomatic Corps, retired service commanders, President and the members of the Association of Retired Flank Rank Officers, the wife of late Deshamannya General Denis Perera, Mrs. Ranjani Perera, and the family members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. At the inception, let me thank the President and the members of the AFRO for giving me this opportunity to address this August gathering. Reflecting on the exceptional character of late Deshamannya General Denis Perera, one sees an outstanding leader whose lifetime principle was integrity of the highest order. He was the example, moral courage to do what is needed and to what is right, while being an officer and a gentleman par excellence. Young Master Denis Perera was educated at St. Peter's College, Colombo, and he excelled as a multifaceted student in academics as well as sports. In 1949, at the age of 19, he answered the call to the profession of arms to join the young Ceylon Army. Young Master Denis Perera's mother's dream was her son to join a monastery and become a priest due to her strong faith in the religion. However, an uncle of Master Perera, who was in the Ceylon police, saw him more as soldier material and convinced his parents for him to join the Ceylon Army. General Denis Perera received his initial training at Mons Officer Cadet School in the United Kingdom and the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. He was also a graduate of the British Army Staff College, Cambly, and the National Defence College, New Delhi, India. In 1977, at the age of 46, he was bestowed the twin honors of being the first SEPA officer and also the youngest officer ever to be made the commander of the Sri Lanka Army. On retirement, General Perera continued to serve the nation and the corporate sector. First, as the High Commissioner to Australia, and subsequently as the Chairman, Securities Exchange Commission, the Ceylon Tobacco Company, and 2 other high-end companies in Sri Lanka. In the year 2000, acknowledging his meritorious service to the nation, he was bestowed by the title Deshamannya. He was also elevated to as a 4-star general in the same year. Ladies and gentlemen, General Perera was well known to be a shrewd strategist and a sound military leader who always lived up to the motto of the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, serve to lead. Also, General Perera remains a role model for officering in the armed forces in Sri Lanka. As an officer and a statesman, he made everlasting impressions for the military fraternity as well as our nation at large. In 2010, I had a very interesting experience when I flew with the late General and his gracious lady who is present here today to attend the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the National Defence College in India. Though he had hung his uniform some time back, I felt that he remained a hardcore general the way he expressed his thoughts on military tradition. Every conversation I had with General Perera made me feel proud as a military officer. It was very apparent that he was most upright and proud of the profession of arms. He professed that a military officer should never lean against anyone and be a shadow to anyone, and must stand up firm for what is right. I am very confident that this august audience needs no elaboration on General Perera's role in establishing the Kotalawala Defense University. General Perera pioneered and triggered the conversion of the Kotalawala estate into an esteemed military university it is today. It was indeed befitting that General Perera was appointed the first chancellor after it became a university. Late General Denis Perera, visionary leadership and foresight provided our army with the commandos and the Women's Corps as integral units. In corporate language, to timely investments that have brought rich dividends. The Association of the Retired Flag Rank Officers, which has brought us together this evening, was another successful effort of General Denis Perera. This is the professional institution of the profession of arms in Sri Lanka. It is a member of the esteemed Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka and is affiliated to the World Consultative Association of Retired Generals, Admirals, and Air Marshals. A true worthy outfit to be in for a military veteran of flag rank after retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, General Denis Perera was a passionate leader and a visionary and a professional whose life is worthy of celebrations at the highest level of esteem and appreciation. Considering this example of military officering in Sri Lanka, whom this oration is dedicated to, I chose my discourse the obvious officering attributes of integrity, professionalism, and empathy as practiced by him. Let me quote General Colin Powell, the former US Secretary of State. I quote, "The most important thing I learned is that soldiers watch what their leaders do. You can give them classes and lectures them forever, but it is your personal example that they will follow." I unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, from the very beginning of civilization, when mankind engaged in war fighting, the officer was the nucleus and the pivot around which the rank and file rallied for guidance, direction, and leadership. The contemporary armed forces are ramping up their efforts to groom capable breed of officers to lead and confront the asymmetric threats encountered by nations in battle spaces which are not clearly defined. It is the need of the day that effort should persist from the moment an officer joins, as it is only knowledge and its continuous application will make one perfect. In this context, I would like to quote Aristotle. I quote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act but a habit." Unquote. For any military officer, integrity is a primary attribute which strengthens his moral fiber to control emotions both in times of adversity and success. Integrity is a leadership attribute discussed at length in our profession. Integrity could be defined as the quality of truthfulness, honesty, maintaining of moral standards. Integrity then should not be considered as a mere attribute, but a virtue to live by any military officer. The world today refers to ethics in spheres of public, corporate, national, and international. Therefore, military leaders need to be aware the dramatic lift in the bar of standards in accountability, honesty, and trust. An officer is entrusted with state secrets relating to the integrity of a nation and lives of the public and the men he leads. If an officer is found to be dishonest or disloyal, it means that his career has two sides. One will manifest to suit the circumstances, and the other to meet his personal liking and not the common goal. Officers, as leaders, must demonstrate moral fiber to be selfless and address the needs of their subordinates before their own, and possess the integrity to take wholesome solutions. Our great nation, Sri Lanka, expects complete honesty and integrity from us. Anything less, if delivered, will ultimately put our nation at risk by sabotaging its future and its strategy to compete in this world. Therefore, General Eisenhower's quote that, I quote, "Integrity is the supreme quality of leadership," is underscored with no doubt. Even though midway, I need to make a disclaimer that I will generalize in relation to gender and refer to military personnel as he or him, only to make my life easier for me. This discourse and is in no way to reduce the immense contribution made by the ladies in our profession. Ladies and gentlemen, professionalism is the next attribute of officering that I would endeavor to relate to you. The contemporary military culture is far distant from the traditional forms of warfighting, as cyberspace, smart equipment, and proactive tactics have encroached at a rapid pace. However, technology cannot and will not replace the concept of professional officering. Thus, the military needs a core of highly skilled, technology-savvy officers to command them in tomorrow's uncertain environment. This means officer of today is called upon to command are technically savvy, well-educated, well-socialized, and have grown up in a free-thinking environment. The opponents of peace, the officer of today, will be called upon to confront are shrewd exponents of asymmetric warfare and capable of well-strategizing operations. They have learned and trained to exploit technology and the human mind with much precision and process to achieve their ideological objectives. Their standard modus operandi is to attack the social fabric at the same time from multi directions. In this context, it is imperative for officers who lead from the front to develop knowledge and all-round capacity that includes outside one's lane knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, the most important and cardinal characteristics a professional need is to have the knowledge and competency in one's own field. The legendary Indian Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, may I quote, "You cannot be born with professional knowledge and professional competencies. Even if you are a child of a prime minister or a son of an industrialist or a son of a field marshal, professional knowledge and professional competency have to be acquired by hard work and constant study," I unquote. Due to the uncertainty, the high stress levels, and continuous evolving threats to the society he serves, an officer's professional competency must be at the highest level at all times. For this, it is necessary that the appropriate candidates only be selected to hold the President's commission, and the aspect of their selection, training, assessment, and evaluations given the highest precedence of priority by authorities concerned. Incompetent and unprofessional officers who are unsuitable to lead men and incapable of rational decision-making should not be tolerated in any military institution. The popular phrase goes to say, there are no bad soldiers, but only bad officers. Professionalism for an officer is not only knowing his job, but it is also relates to discipline and decorum that he and his men maintain while engaging on task, whatever the circumstances may be. This goes beyond an officer inspecting haircuts and turnout and bearing, but reaches out to greater depth of intervening into unprofessional conducts of abusers of human rights or even fraternization. Both these occur due to lack of self-control and moral fiber to control one's emotions, and is a failure that should be purged from the professional of officer corps at the first hinted experience. It is the conduct of the officer that men will follow. This will then decide the esteem of the unit in the social domain that it operates. As per the Sri Lanka Air Force ethos, core values, standards adopted from the Royal Air Force, it applies the following formula to determine the code of social conduct. Have the actions or behavior of an individual adversely impacted, or are they likely to impact on the efficiency, operational effectiveness of the Sri Lanka Air Force? This applies to all individuals in our Air Force on or off duty in order to undermine unprofessional behavior without hesitation. I strongly believe that this formula can be applied to any institution. In the Sri Lankan post-conflict environment, we experience numerous cynical and false expressions relating to our past, the present conduct, it is the leadership that must emerge with professionalism. Ladies and gentlemen, from professionalism, may I now move on to empathy, a softer and a lesser discussed attribute in an officer's repertoire. May I quote General Omar Bradley in one of his papers on leadership. I quote, a leader should possess human understanding and considering for others, and he continues on that quote, I unquote. Knowing your men and to possess the ability to understand and share their feelings is an essential empathetic trait of a leader. In marketing language, it is said, you know your customer, or they call it KYC. In this case, our subordinates are our internal customers. It is important to develop a memory for names and faces of the people under one's command. The saying goes, a man's name is to him the most important word in his language. Our subordinates endure great pains emotionally, psychologically, physically, socially, during war and during peace. For an officer to mitigate the emotional pain, the officer needs to be able to empathize and make the man feel that his pain is felt, even though not necessarily shared or the issue being resolved. Human and social issues faced by our subordinates cannot be resolved by mere application of military law or by generous distribution of welfare items to the families of the subordinates. The genuine, caring nature and the ability to feel subordinates' pain, see their point of view, even not necessarily accepted, and the qualities of an empathetic leader. Thus, empathy is an integral part of officering. It creates an unspoken bond of trust between the men and the officers. Without empathy and compassion, one's subordinates will always keep their distance and be cautious when dealing with their leaders. Throughout my discourse, I have elaborated on 3 core attributes that are the ethos of officering: integrity, professionalism, and empathy. The thresholds of these attributes converge in most instances, supporting one another. These 3 attributes, taken in broader sense, encompasses all values that we would like a leader of our choice to possess. It is not rationally possible for a single human being to possess all these 3 values in their entirety. But we, as seniors, need to emphasize the importance of these attributes to our younger generations. Our younger generations have grown up in a free-thinking environment and tend to refer words of realism and pragmatism instead of values. It is in this sense that we need to create awareness of the importance of means as well as successful achievement of the end. It is here that ethos of officering come into bearing. In the Sri Lanka Air Force, we have recently introduced a booklet, Ethos and Core Values. In this, we have translated our values into a broad statement. Though this statement, our intention is to give the officer an identity based on value and say, this is who I am. Ladies and gentlemen, the art of officering have evolved many ways to suit the trends of the change. But there are many unwritten laws, traditions, and customs of officering handed down by our forefathers of this profession. Men and technology will come and retire, but these customs and traditions cannot be changed, nor should review be attempted, as they are based on valuable lessons learned from engagements of painful conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, may I stress that integrity, professionalism, empathy are attributes that serves as pillars of genuine officering. They need to be taught, nurtured, developed, appreciated when practiced. This will ensure that the respect and esteem of our sacred profession will remain intact. Ladies and gentlemen, may the late Deshamannya General Denis Perera be remembered by the future generations for his excellence in soldiering. Thank you very much.
There is no doubt that it was the late General Deshamannya Denis Perera who single-handedly created a culture of integrity and professionalism in the Sri Lanka Army. And the topic that you have chosen for this oration today, which is aptly wound round the ethos of officering, stems from that noble deed. You have today cemented that fact so eloquently, and we at AFRO thank you very much for such an outstanding oration. An event of this magnitude and importance cannot be successfully concluded without the wholehearted support, commitment, and dedication of a plethora of personalities, whether on stage, behind it, or on the horizon. May I kindly invite Air Vice Marshal Brendan Souza, one of the joint Vice Presidents of AFRO, to propose the vote of thanks.
Our sincere thanks for accepting our invitation to deliver the Deshamannya Denis Perera Oration. You spoke on a very complicated topic, and I was wondering, before I came here, how you were going to tackle this, because it's so wide: integrity, professionalism, empathy, the ethos of officering. You brought out quite a number of examples and quotations from former military luminaries. Listening to that, I was thinking that during our days in the Air Force, we were not exposed to so much of, so much of information, and it was in a more narrow confine. So you handle the subject very clearly and eloquently. It will be published in our next annual journal and preserved for posterity. It will also be included on our website. To digress a little, most of you officers present here would have done some form of training either in India or Pakistan in the course of your careers. During informal discussions with your course mates, you would have gathered that most of these officers proudly say that their fathers and grandfathers served and commanded brigades or battalions in different regiments. For example, the number 4 Punjab Regiment, or number 3 Frontier Force Regiment. Coming from this, the first legal officer of the Air Force was Flight Lieutenant Bulat Sinhala Marcus Perera, the dad of Air Marshal Gagan. His uncle, Mr. Kelvin Vijayasinghe, was a civilian executive officer at the Air Force Base Katunayaka. Thus, Gagan is a pioneer Air Force stock. When we were commissioned into the Air Force, the first publication, or one of the first publications that was compulsory reading to us, was a book titled Customs of the Service, authored by Group Captain Stradling of the Royal Air Force. For the next 60 years, approximately, this Bible was what was referred to whenever necessary by the officers. Recently, I had the pleasure of meeting the Air Force commander, requesting him to write a foreword to a book titled The Air Force DSLR and the Regiment, which I was co-authoring with a friend of mine. He readily agreed. He then presented me with a booklet, namely Ethos, Core Values and Standards. I inquired from the air staff as to who had authored this booklet, and I was told is none other than the commander himself. So may I congratulate you that for 60 years we were all reading Group Captain Stradling, and now you have introduced a book which is more apt in the present circumstances. Whenever we of the Afro requested any assistance from the Air Force, it was unhesitatingly given. Like the biblical verse, ask and you shall receive. In recent times, we read in the media quite a lot about orations. This oration in commemoration of Deshamannya General Denis Perera will be earmarked in the calendar of Afro in the years to come. We are honored by the presence of the State Minister of Defense, Honorable Ruwan Wijewardena. Sir, as far as I can recollect, we have never had a State Minister of Defense visiting us and mixing up with us. I'm also pleased to welcome the Secretary of Defense, Engineer Karnasen Hettiarachi. At all our functions, he is a regular. And the barrier between the civilians and the civilian boss and the serviceman is quietly being erased with your ready company that we enjoy. We thank Mrs. Ranjani Perera and her sons for their presence here. Our thanks also due to the Chancellor of the KDU, Admiral Daya Sandagiri, and the Vice Chancellor, Rear Admiral Jagat Ranasinghe, who readily acceded to all our requests. We thank the commanders of the Army, Navy, and the Air Force for directing their staff to extend their fullest assistance to us in making this annual event a success. We much appreciate all the assistance and support extended to us by the relevant staff of the Tri-Services and the KDU. Finally, we thank all of you for your presence here today, for having readily accepted our invitation to the oration in honor of the much loved and respected pioneer, officer and a gentleman named Deshamannya General Denis Perera. Thank you and good night.
All of you for your presence here today. I trust that all of you enjoyed being with us as much as we enjoyed having you. The President of the Retired Flag Rank Officers Association invites you to enjoy some light refreshments on the lawn outside, and the procession will now leave the hall.